The Culture Builders Podcast. Today's episode is an article at tocculture.com, and you can get those articles by just subscribing to our weekly newsletter at tocculture.com. How Rory McIlroy went from self-blame to radical responsibility. So at 21, Rory McIlroy was on the cusp of something spectacular. The entire world of golf was watching, holding his breath, as he entered the final round of the 2011 Masters tournament at Augusta. Leading after 3 rounds, Rory could taste victory, but then it all unraveled. The final day was a nightmare. Shot by shot, his lead slipped away, and what had seemed like destiny turned into disaster. He shot an 80, one of the worst rounds of his career. Gone were his hopes of winning, replaced by a crushing wave of self-doubt. Rory didn't just lose the tournament, he lost his confidence, and the world didn't need to say anything. Rory's inner critic had it covered. You blew it. You weren't good enough. What were you thinking? He couldn't escape the shame, and the endless loop of "I'm not good enough" was loud and merciless. It was kind of the self-blame that doesn't let you move on. It keeps you stuck in the past, replaying every mistake. But then something changed. Instead of letting this self-blame consume him, he made a choice. He would take radical responsibility, owning his part, but not letting it define him. He started asking different questions, ones that didn't end in self-condemnation, but open doors. What did this teach me? How can I respond better next time? The difference was life-changing. In just a few months, Rory walked into the U.S. Open, not as a kid haunted by his mistakes, but as a stronger, more resilient player. He won that tournament by a record-breaking 8 strokes, showing the world that his story wouldn't be one of defeat, but of relentless growth. In that moment, Rory McIlroy taught us all a powerful lesson. Self-blame keeps us trapped, but radical responsibility moves us forward. Taking radical responsibility, as the Conscious Leadership Group calls it, or extreme ownership, as Jocko Willink describes it, can be challenging. It's often tempting to slip into self-blame instead. So what's the difference between taking responsibility and self-blame? Self-blame lacks curiosity and openness to learning. It involves making harsh judgments, coming to negative conclusions, and then stopping there. It focuses on finding fault within ourselves, fostering feelings of guilt, shame, and inadequacy. The self-talk that accompanies self-blame often includes statements like, "It's my fault," or "I'm not good enough." This mindset is self-critical and regretful, which undermines our confidence and prevents growth. Radical responsibility, on the other hand, is open and curious, and involves acknowledging how one's actions, choices, or perspectives contributed to a situation with a focus on learning and improvement. This approach fosters accountability without self-judgment. Rather than making definitive, self-condemning statements, radical responsibility involves asking constructive questions. How have I co-created this situation? What can I learn from this? How is this for my benefit? How can I respond better? By owning our part without self-condemnation, radical responsibility builds resilience and leads to growth. And that's where growth for us as leaders starts. Not with harsh criticism, but with asking, how can I learn from this?